Alright, today's lesson is how to translate a figure in the coordinate plane. So let's go ahead and get started first with a little bit of notation and the differences between the two. The first type of form using a vector is called component form. We write component form using a pointed set of brackets instead of parentheses. We're going to use the letter A to represent the change in X, meaning how much in the X direction you're traveling. And we're going to use the letter B to talk about the change in Y, meaning how far you're moving in the Y direction. This can be translated into point notation. Point notation is where you take the X value and you add the change in it. So plus A, comma, then we use our Y value and plus B, and we put parenthesis at the end. The best way to help you remember parenthesis versus pointed brackets is point notation starts with a P, parenthesis starts with a P, so they kind of go together. So let's go ahead and practice component form and point notation for this example. First, we're going to have to look at the distance we're traveling in the X direction. So looking at your picture, in the X direction, we're traveling 4 units because X is horizontal. So what that ends up meaning is when we're writing it in component form, we're going to go ahead and put the 4 first. Then we look at our vertical, and vertical we're moving up 3. So right here for our vertical, we're going to put a 3. It is as easy as that. We're not doing anything else more complicated. We're just basically writing down how we're moving in 2 different forms. So point notation, what's going to end up happening is we're going to take that 4 down and it's going to look like this. X plus 4, comma, Y plus 3. So we're basically just taking our changes in X and Y and then just writing them as additions with X and with Y. So this is basically just us saying how to move the points correctly in the coordinate plane. Before we get started actually translating a shape, let's discuss notation and kind of just words that are going to help you kind of understand what's happening. If you have in point notation X plus a number, that is you moving in the right. So X plus 3, that would be 3 units right. Okay. If it's X minus a number, that's you moving to the left, such as X minus 3. That's you moving left 3 units. For Y, if you have Y plus a number, that's you traveling up. Y minus a number is traveling down. So using this knowledge, when we look at this picture, or in our point notation, since this is positive, this would mean X plus 4. That just means go right 4 units. And then Y plus 3, that means go up 3. So let's actually translate a shape. Translate triangle ABC, -3, 2. The first thing that we want to go ahead and do here is create a T-chart. And T-charts are just like what you used in Algebra 1 when you were working with functions, only now we're going to use them as points to help us plot. The left-hand side is always the pre-image points, meaning the points with no primes. So you want to make sure to label. I've got A, B, and C, and give yourself plenty of room, just stay organized. So what I'm going to do is list the location of those 3 points. A's location is 1, 2, 3 in the X and down 1 in the Y. 3, -1. B's location is 1 in the X and 1 in down Y, so that's 1, -1. And C's location, we go to the right 1 and down 3. So 1, -3. So these are always going to be the pre-image points on the left, the original points. Then, after we apply our transformation, those are now going to be the image points over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go from component form to point form. So X minus 3, comma, y plus 2. And I'm going to go ahead and also write that down here, x minus 3, comma, y plus 2. Basically, what's happening is we are now applying the rule. So any x value gets subbed into this x value. So what that looks like, we're now going to be dealing with primes, so a prime, b prime, and c prime. And what happens is we're going to take our pre-image value and substitute it into this x. So this becomes 3 minus 3, which is 0. Then I'm going to shift down to b prime. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. And c prime, again, we have another 1 for x, so 1 minus 3 is, again, negative 2. Now, you can switch back and forth and do the first x and then the first y. I find it's easier to just go ahead and do all your x's first. That way, it's just kind of easier process. Your brain is doing the same thing over and over, so it kind of helps you remember what to do. All right, lastly, we're going to take all these y values now, and all those y values just get 2 added to them. So this becomes negative 1 plus 2 for positive 1, negative 1 again plus 2 for another positive 1, and negative 3 plus 2 for negative 1. It's just a function. You put an x value in, you get an x value out. These are now your image points because notice how they have primes. You want to graph the image. So this section we're going to graph. Okay, so we're going to graph our new set of points. When we're labeling, we're going to make sure to put primes in there so we know that we actually have to label the image versus pre-image. All right, so I'm going to go back over to my chart. 0, 1 means I go 0 on the x-axis and up 1 on the y. So my new A prime is here. B prime, negative 2, up 1. So this is my B prime point. And C prime is negative 2, negative 1. You'll know if you did this correctly if your shape looks the same. If your shape gets larger or smaller, you've plotted a point incorrectly. So just be mindful that your shape, when you're translating, it's just a slide. Now, yes, we could have done this without a T-chart, but remember, eventually we're going to be adding reflections and rotations in here, and the T-chart's just going to help you stay organized. So what we're doing here is building a good foundation for the more difficult stuff, so the hard stuff isn't as difficult. So if you wanted to do this without a T-chart, all you would have to do is it says that you're traveling left 3 and up 2. So I'd start at A, I would count left 3, 1, 2, 3, up 2, 1, 2. That's A prime. Then I would go to B, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. C, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So you can do it that way, but just be mindful that when we're throwing in reflections and rotations, that the T-chart just really helps you stay organized. All right, let's do our very last type of problem. What transformation will carry triangle ABC onto triangle A prime, B prime, C prime? When it has the word will carry, that's just another way to say mapping. And all mapping means is how to get the pre-image onto the image. So the difference between what we just did and this problem is in this problem, you're finding the rule. In the one above, I gave you the rule and you're applying it. Down here, you're determining the rule yourself. So it's really important that you understand the notation when it comes to image versus pre-image. So looking at your picture, the pre-image is the figure without primes. So this is the first, and we're trying to map the first triangle onto the second triangle. Basically, you're just going to tell me how to get from triangle 1 to triangle 2. It's really important that when you map, that point A does end up on A prime, point B must end up on B prime, and point C must end up on C prime. So it's very important that you're mapping the correct letters to each other. For triangles, it's a little bit easier, but when you get into squares, mapping a square can be tricky because you have all the sides that are the same. So A might end up at C prime instead of A prime, so just be careful. So what we're going to do, it looks like my shape has just been slid up. So what we're going to do is just pick a point. I'm going to choose point C. So I want to figure out how to get from C to C prime. So let's see, I'm going to go left, 1, 2, 3. So one answer could be left 3. And then from 3, it looks like we're going to go ahead and go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we went left 3 and up 5. That's one answer. Another answer is you could have gone up first and then left. So I could have gone up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and left 3. So I don't always have to go left first. So I could write my answer as up 5, left 3. Even though it's the same ending point, the direction you're starting with is different. So technically, these are two different answers. Okay. The third way we could write our final answer is let's write it in point notation. If we're going to the left, that's a -3, and up would be y plus 5. So remember, that is point notation. From point notation, we could take it into component form, which is just simply us getting rid of the x and y and changing the parentheses to little pointed brackets. So the good thing about mapping is even though it looks a little complicated, mapping is actually easy because it gives you multiple correct answers. So there's not just one right way to do this. All of these are correct answer choices, and all of them are acceptable. If you want to check the other points, it should work the same way. So let's see, to get from A to A prime, we'd go left 1, 2, 3, and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it worked again for A prime. And B, left 1, 2, 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So notice how the shape does shift at the same speed, at the same direction. Nothing's lagging behind. So this is a proper translation. Translation just means slide. So we're just taking the shape and sliding it this way.